So here we are back dimensioning part 2 with symbols. Check out the Canvas page on symbols. I put in a PDF there of I think it's a very well done ASTM standard listing symbols, and also the keyboard for the GDT font is on there. So if you don't want to hunt around and find your symbols on the GDT keyboard, look at that PDF. This is a nice little neat table also to help you read your drawings of typical symbols that we're using here. We'll be using the large capital R for, which would just be a normal capital R on your keyboard for radii. Find the diameter symbol using your lowercase GDT fonts, and also the counterbore countersink are on there. You'll find all of these on there. Dimensions should be easy to read and minimize the possibility for conflicting interpretations. That's why it's best not to do a lot of redundant annotation. Keep it simple should be your mode of operation when thinking about dimensions. Spacing between dimension lines should be uniform throughout the drawing. So if you have that, stack of dimensions, and make sure that you're measuring up a fixed distance between each dimension line. And when I'm in AutoCAD, I will oftentimes put a temporary layout line where I want that dimension line to be, and then I'll use the offset command to get that next up distance that I need for the next dimension. And likewise, I'll do that again and again up the stack using the offset command and a layout line. That's actually my preferred method for that. Dimension lines should always be placed around a view and never in the view unless clearness is gained. We've been, doing a lot of sketches where the front view and the right view are sort of very near each other, and the top view is like one grid above. But for more finished drawings, you would typically have, if you had multiple views like that, you would separate them. You wouldn't want to necessarily lose their orientation to each other. So we would still want the front view to be directly below the top view, but we would space them apart from each other enough so that we could throw all those annotative dimension lines in there and not be running out of space. Your reader is to be considered when you're placing your text. So your annotation text needs to be oriented for the page. If the page is going to be read in portrait, then the text is set for that. If the page is going to be read in landscape, which many construction plans are, then all of your text orientation would have to be for the landscape page instead. Dimension text should not overlap other lines or text. So, we talk about precedence, but in lines, but this is sort of another case of precedence, is that the text should never be overlapped by another line. In fact, important text is often boxed or circled with a bold line to highlight its importance. So keep that in mind. So we'll just go ahead and look at some typical mistakes. On this drawing, this thick bold line around the perimeter is the object line, and also including this inner circle cut through. So the mistakes we see are the distance between these two dimension lines is pretty small, and then this next one, the gap is pretty big. Different type of dimension here, this is with the text between the arrows, but nonetheless, the distance between this is the dimension line, this is the dimension line, that distance needs to be equal to this distance. Don't place your stuff inside your annotation, inside the boundaries of the object. All of that should be arranged so that it's outside. And over here you see this this is a big no-no, you know, getting text crossed with a dimension line. You'd want to grip edit that in AutoCAD and pull it out of there somehow. You could put it down here. And then this text here needs to be rotated. And that's a property that can be edited. So, you know, if you have a situation where something's turned, you can property edit, but quite honestly, that's something that you want to do with your style. And then, you know, no gaps over here. So this extension line looks like it's running right into the object line. Should look like that over there with the gap. This is a thin line. This is a thick line, as object line, and there's a good sized gap there. I would say, you know, in general, in Paperspace, these gaps need to be equivalent to 0.05. You know, we're using 0.1 for our small font in Paperspace. So in Paperspace, for us, generally speaking, when we get done scaling it, our font is 0.1, and so that's why I'm saying this is going to have to be in Paperspace about 0.05 to look visible. And then also, you know, you start looking at these arrowheads and you realize they're going to have to be about, I think we put them in at 0.18. And then this one should have a nice radial coming down here with the, from here, from this point, coming down at 45 with the, should be the diameter of the hole there. So when it looks right, it looks something like that. They've kept everything kind of together, like there's nothing on the bottom. They have all their stuff fanned. That's what I call fan, where it just fans up like that. And you'll see this gap here, this distance is greater than the follow-through distances on the fans, on the fan annotation. Dimension lines should not cross other lines. Extension lines can cross other lines. So the dimension line is that line with the text on it, and then the extension are the legs. Extension lines and center lines do not connect between views. So, you know, we ran into that with our center marks, that we don't run a center line, say, from the front view to the side view. We put two center lines on there. And as we were saying, the leader line should point to the center of the arc or the circle at an angle close to 45. So we'll look at some mistakes here. In this case, we have two views. This is your front view with a hole in it. And this is your side view. There's sort of a back wall here and a little bit of a footing. And this has got a hole through it. There's the center line. The rest of the lines on here are annotative. So let's see, what do we see here? Leader line. This should be up at a 45. The center line, it should be clipped, it should be trimmed. So it should be trimmed about here. And then all of this section in here should be removed. And then, say, starting right about here, it should be clipped again. The text in this case has been inconsistently placed, because over here they have the text placed between the arrowheads, which is an option in a style. It's a choice. And then there's this one over here. The text has been stacked above the dimension line, and that is also a style choice, but they should be consistent in the same drawing. And then here you have, crossing issues. So this is, again, this is the dimension line. It should not be crossing other extension lines like that. These two should be reversed so that the extension lines don't cross the dimension lines. So that's what it looks like when you fan these up, simple fan, and then you've got your sort of common wall dimensions for both objects in the middle, and then your remaining stuff is all on the top view. So it's very sort of happily arranged. But you will notice that over here, two extension lines did cross. That's okay. That would be okay. So figure out where you're going to put your info and stick to it in one place. Don't put the same info in two places. Makes it much harder to update and correct and check your drawings. Always place the dimensions where the feature shows in profile. And the profile will be the view that has sort of a contoured edge versus a flat face. Sometimes you look down on a certain face and you don't see much relief between, say, something that's in front and something that's behind. But if you turn the view, you'll see it in sharp relief. And so that's where you'd want to place your dimensions. Too much information. So, they said they got redundant. So here up on this view, this is a little object here with the back wall. Here's the back wall. And got the measurement twice. Not good. So clean up all of the dimensions on one view and get rid of them if you can, so that you only have your dimensions on two of the three views. If at all possible, that would make a much cleaner drawing.